Hello, everybody, and welcome to another kind of Marvel Crisis Protocol reveal video. No major spoilers today, but they did recently. This actually coming out a day late because I was at work at the time, and it's late when I'm recording this. But they did yesterday at time of upload decide to update the timelines document for 2025, and this is effective immediately, but because this is meant to kind of capture a good chunk of time in the future, it has some kind of interesting spoilers for some of the models that we don't really know much about yet. So yeah, some really exciting stuff from that in here. I also have a little bit of theory I want to kind of jump into based on some of the choices they made. So while I don't personally play a timeline and we don't really cover much timeline related things on the channel, I still think it's worth looking at from a general game perspective because obviously it is still the same game, just a different format. So there's going to be a lot of relevant information there. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start getting into the characters list. So this is, you're going to notice right away, totally different from the timeline document that we had previously. There are entire affiliations removed or added to this one that weren't in the previous one, and some really interesting choices that I think are worth highlighting. Notably, again, in reference to some of the new characters, but also just some other kind of interesting things. So, I don't think there's anything super surprising with A-Force here. Again, if you notice any noticeable exclusions or inclusions, definitely let me know in the comments. But I think the first one that gets interesting here is in Asgard, where they chose to make the Mighty Thor, so that's our original Thor, the only leader in Affiliation, but they have Hero of Midgard here, so that is, of course, the newer Thor. And I think that's a really interesting choice there because, that means if you're running him in Affiliation, you're not running your leadership. So that's a unique thing that one thing I kind of noticed looking through this document is they were really restrictive on leaderships. There are two affiliations in this entire document that have more than one leadership available to them, and a lot of the leaderships that they did give are typically considered the weaker one in the affiliation. So a little bit of theory creeping in here. I think this might be a sign that maybe some of these old leaders are about to get a buff. There's been a lot of rumors, especially in my local scene, that maybe with Gladiator we're getting that crisis refresh. Maybe we're also going to get another kind of character update. We're still waiting on physical cards from the ones that were released over a year ago now. So yeah, I think maybe something like that is coming due, and this could be a little bit of a sign as to which models might be seeing that. So, if I had to put my money on it, I'd say Mighty Thor is definitely someone who deserves to be on that list. He deserves another small buff, and now that the new Asgardian models have been out for a little bit, giving old Thor buff probably doesn't hurt sales on new Thor all that much. So yeah, I think that's an interesting one there. Also notably, I believe that is old Loki, and there is no Jane here. So yeah, they've got Sif, but otherwise it's only half of the new box. So they're not quite doing the thing they were doing with the last timeline update, where it was kind of all of the newer stuff was there, but none of the older stuff was kind of excluded. This time it kind of seems to be a little bit more specific. Obviously, the stuff that hasn't released yet is all there, but the kind of second half of 2024 releases are not necessarily included in this format. So going into Avengers, I think we see another really interesting one here with a Hulkbuster being the only Avengers leader, which is wild. I mean, he's notoriously got kind of a non-existent leadership, so really interesting to see that they chose to make Hulkbuster the leader here, and I'm crossing my fingers that that means we're getting some sort of buff for him, because I would love that personally. I'm a huge fan of the model, so awesome to see that there. Another thing I'm kind of just noticing now is that a lot of these affiliations are actually probably going to be pretty throw heavy. Mighty Thor, She-Hulk, Magneto are some of the leaders we're seeing, Thanos. So maybe they're actually just thinking he might actually be good in timeline. So there is that, but personally, I'm really hoping for some sort of buff. I don't think there was anything else too interesting with the Avengers line here. We get to Black Order. Again, they've got their entire affiliation here. Because of Corvus, they're technically one of the only affiliations that has multiple leadership options, assuming his card was included. Not 100% sure that it was. We can check that. But yeah, that's worth acknowledging. As far as Brotherhood goes, we see that they have included a handful of the new models here. So we have Avalanche, Exodus, Lady Mastermind here, and I swear there was one more. Maybe it was just three that they showed. Maybe it was just three. But all three of them are there, and none of them are marked as a leader. So most likely, none of them will be a leader. But yeah, that's worth kind of throwing out there. Otherwise, they actually made out pretty decent here. They have a good chunk of their affiliation, not nearly all of it, notably no Pyro, um, or Mystique, of course, for that matter, or Toad actually. So they are missing some really key models in their affiliation, but they do still have a reasonably sized affiliation list there. Next, we get into Cabal, where Malekith is the only leader that they've thrown here, and yeah, I don't think this one is too surprising in too many ways. Notably, they mentioned Mephisto here, which actually is really interesting because I don't think I saw his affiliation here on this list, and that means they probably didn't put in his leadership tactics card in the list as well. So that's something worth acknowledging as well. That Mephisto is not an option as a leader, but he is an option in Cabal. So that's kind of cool. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see it, and I'm just stupid, but. Then we get to Defenders, and this is the other one that tips me off to maybe an update is coming because we have Doctor Strange as the Defenders leader here. So yeah, this one is definitely a leader that not very many people are running around with. So, you know, if they want people to be playing Defenders in Timeline, I don't think Doctor Strange, you can make the same kind of justifications that I was making with Hulkbuster, and like maybe they think he's good because of all these other models, because I think Doctor Strange has issues against a lot of those models. So, yeah, I think that's kind of it might be an indication that they might be looking at doing some more character updates. Also, really interesting here is that they've chosen to include Elsa Bloodstone and Man-Thing in Defenders, which is always nice to see. So yeah, we know they're going to be, because we already knew they're going to be Midnight Suns. That's kind of the obvious one, but they're also going to be included in Defenders, so that's great. Going into Guardians of the Galaxy, we have Star-Lord as the leader here. They have their entire affiliation pretty much, I think. Maybe they're missing one. Wasn't paying super close attention. Actually, oh no, they do have Ronan. But the interesting ones here are, of course, Nova and Yondu are both included, and both characters were discussed as having a potential leadership for Guardians. A lot of theories running around, but if they do, then it's not marked on this document, so maybe they're hiding it and they'll update it later. But I think more likely, they just don't have one. So that is most likely the world we're living in. So yeah, Nova and Yondu both coming out. I believe the only affiliation they're listed for is Guardians here, and neither of which will be a leader. Next, we have Hydra. They actually made Hydra really small here, and they're probably not having too great of a time. None of the new models, they got Red Skull Master as their leader, and he is a good leader, but they are definitely a much smaller affiliation than they're used to having. And then we get to Inhumans, which is another one of the interesting ones here. So regular Black Bolt is out. The only leader they have access to is Maximus the Mad. So again, confirming that Maximus is going to be the leader of Inhumans in that box. They do have King Black Bolt, and he is not listed as a leader. So again, unless they're trying to do some fake out thing, I think we're kind of confirming here that Maximus is the leader for Inhumans. And then, of course, Gorgon and Karnak are also here. So, yeah, I don't think I saw them in any other affiliation lists. If you guys spot something I didn't, please do let me know. But yeah, they're probably going to be Inhumans only. Not super shocking on that one, personally. Then we go down a little bit and we get to the second affiliation that has multiple leaders, that being Midnight Suns. So surprise, surprise, Elsa is a Midnight Suns leader. This was at least soft confirmed a long time ago. So we kind of knew that was coming, but then they also have Man-Thing, and again, we all expected that, but always nice to see it confirmed. Going into S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't know what they're trying to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. here. Namor is their only leader, presuming Invaders is in here, otherwise they're running leaderless. But yeah, that's kind of worth acknowledging here. So yeah, Agent Venom, again, they had all the Guardians, She-Hulk because they had A-Force, and then Taskmaster, I guess, is the only other model where it's like there's no kind of obvious reason why he's here, but he is here. So yeah, Shield probably not having too great of a time with only four models in their affiliation, and only two of them really being models that are frequently brought in Shield. But still is what it is. They did include Dracula, and he is allowed to be a leader, so that's going to be a thing for sure. And then they've got Uncanny X-Men here, where they made Cyclops the only leader for the X-Men. No spoilers here on affiliations for new models. Notably, the new Phoenix we're expecting is not on this list, so we don't know when that's going to be hitting exactly, but we also don't really have any indicators on affiliations, other than, of course, educated guesses like Jean will most likely end up still being an X-Men, but for now, not confirmed. Then we have X-Force, where nothing too surprising here. They're definitely a smaller team than they're used to having, but not by a crazy amount. And very notably, no Logan and no X-23, which also, Weapon X isn't on this list. So even though technically you could have run Wolverine as the leader, and you do have a couple of Weapon X models available, you probably would have a hard time hitting affiliation, and you'd be running a leader that isn't affiliated, so probably for the best they just left them off the document. And then lastly, we have the unaffiliated category, the return of the unaffiliated category in Gladiator. That's not surprising. I don't think any of the affiliations in the game really fit Gladiator without stretching pretty hard. That said, this isn't definitive because this list doesn't have every faction in the game. They could be saying Gladiator is allowed in timeline events, and I'm not saying this is a likely one, just as a top of my head example, maybe he's actually affiliated Weapon X, but Weapon X isn't on this document, so he doesn't get a spot there. Obviously, I don't think he's actually going to be affiliated Weapon X. I think him being unaffiliated is most likely correct when he actually gets released, but at the very least, we know he's not a member of any of the affiliations that are included in Timelines 2025. So, yeah, not super surprising. I think if he was going to go anywhere, it probably would have been X-Men, but I think you're stretching pretty hard for that. So, yeah, I think this just makes a lot of sense. I almost forgot I was about to move on to tactics cards and things, but Servants of Apocalypse is allowed, and I think they might be allowed their entire roster. I'm not, well, no, it's definitely not their entire roster because they don't have Toad, so not quite, but a good chunk of their roster at the very least, and I'm going to assume this chart didn't change at all, but I can't say that with any certainty because I haven't really played much Apocalypse, so... Alright, so getting into tactics cards, there is a lot here, so I'm going to not read through every single card because I think that's kind of ridiculous. I'm actually just realizing Anger Management is here. Does that mean Hulk is here? I wasn't even paying attention. He is here. Cool. Alrighty. So Hulk is here. Interesting including in Anger Management because that's not really a card anyone brings, but again, it seems like they might be going for a lower power, but then they also included Thor 2 and a bunch of the new stuff that's probably going to be good, and Namor, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's going to be a thing. From there, I mean, there's a bunch of cards for a bunch of different places. I do want to look at a couple things. So First of the Black Order is here. So that is confirming that card leaderships don't necessarily give them a star up there. So that's worth mentioning. Endless Legions, is that Mephisto's leadership card? I'm going to actually have to look that up really quick. Okay, so the card for Mephisto's leadership is Devil's Reckoning. And that is here. So, okay, they didn't include him in the document, but it looks like he can be run as a leader. So, cool. Nice to know. Going through here, I wanted to look for specifically cards that I don't recognize. So just kind of an indication of maybe some things that are coming. So I think the first one I'm seeing here is Dimensional Quagmire here. That is not one ringing a bell to me. Inhuman Queen, I think, is also one that I haven't seen, as well as In Homo Supremus here. So yeah, that's a couple of interesting ones. This one definitely sounds like it's going to be in the Inhumans box. Surprise, surprise. In Homo Supremus, that almost kind of... I'm not sure. That feels like it could be Inhumans, could be Brotherhood. We've got another one I saw a second ago. Where is it? Genetic Prophecy, I don't think I've heard of before, so I think that's a new card as well. I don't know what that would be a part of. But that is a thing. Not seeing any others jumping out at me. Definitely let me know down below if you do see any here that you think are new. But scrolling down a little bit more than that, we do have another page of them here, so I'm just gonna skim this really, really quickly. I think I've seen most, if not all of these. Okay, here we go. Praetor of the Imperial Guard, that definitely sounds new. Plots within plots might be new. It might just be like a Mephisto card or something, honestly. Not 100% familiar with some of the newer cards. Plundered Goods, that also sounds new. So that's going to be a thing. Um, let's see. Protector of the Empire, I think that's new as well. Again, kind of giving me Guardian vibes with that one. Royal Guardians, not sure what that is for, but that is a thing. Veterans of the Annihilation War. I wonder who that's coming with. And then let's see. Ultimate Sacrifice. No, no, no. The Great Refuge. I don't think I have seen this card before. That seems new to me. Again, I might just be stupid. If I'm calling out any cards that definitely already exist, just let me know down below that I should pay more attention to some of the less played cards. Or maybe I'm just really dumb. But yeah, I think that is that for cards. I'm not saying any on this last little bit here. But then we get to the restricted list here, and there's one notable change to the restricted list that wasn't a thing on that's different from our regular restricted list and crisis list for that matter. And that is the restricted list here is all tactics cards, but Research Station is still a thing. So yeah, that's interesting. They've chosen not to make Research Station restricted in Timeline. Now, the belief is probably that there's just less stuff that can abuse it in Timeline, and that's probably very fair. So might be totally fine. Might be an indication that they're not sure if they wanted to keep it there or not going forward with the main game. Also, I think worth acknowledging here is that this box this in every way seems to be acknowledging the Guardian box. We have him, or Guardian. Why do I keep calling him Guardian? It's Gladiator. I'm so sorry. You guys are probably yelling at me in the comments for that one, and I deserve it. The Gladiator box, which is coming with a bunch of new crises. As we know, it's going to be coming with 5 new extracts and 5 new secures. Now, they probably didn't want to spoil anything, so they didn't put them on this document here, but it is worth noting that they did put, I believe, all of the existing ones on this document. Again, I could be stupid and missing one, but at the very least, most. So that might be an indication that we're not necessarily rotating and we are just adding. Lots of theories going around that when the new box releases, with those 10 new crises cards, we'll be kind of doing a bit of a rotation and we'll probably lose about 10 crises cards from the existing selection. So personally, that is something I'm looking forward to. I'm very much looking for a crisis refresh right now, but this might be an indicator that they're not doing that, or this might just be they want to make sure there's plenty there until that box releases, which is also totally fair. So yeah, that could kind of go either way because this list is effective immediately. This is the list as of today, or I guess yesterday when you're seeing this video. So they do kind of have to keep things there for that reason, and then update this once that comes out if they want them to be a part of Timeline, which does make total sense. And I'm kind of talking myself away from the idea that that means we're not seeing an update, which is good because I'm looking forward to that update. But yeah, I think that's just about going to do it for the news today, or again, yesterday, because I'm getting this video up very, very late, unfortunately. But yeah, I think there's some interesting things here, definitely some things worth talking about. I'm very curious by some of the leadership choices that they made. Definitely looking forward to kind of seeing if that means anything is changing or if they're just going for a little bit of a lower power curve. But if they're going for a lower power curve, they're including a lot of new models to do that, and they're including Guardians as a full affiliation. They've got all of the monsters here in Blade, which is also really, really good. So definitely some interesting choices if they're just trying to push for a lower power level, because I think a lot of these are potentially really, really strong, and in a meta where this is all that's available to you in their current states, seems like it might be a little Guardian dominated, because they weren't good enough in regular MCP. So Yeah, I think that's definitely a interesting place to be at with this list. So really, really pushing me towards the idea that some sort of card update is coming. I'm actually curious. I'm gonna check right now whether Galaxy's Greatest is here. It is here. So yeah, they're not even getting rid of like their best card or anything for that. They probably get Lovable Misfits too in that case, which again I'm all for that, but just seems a little one-sided there. Am I blind or did they not get Lovable Misfits? Um, Oh, they did. It's right there. There's just not very many L cards. So yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, very interesting things. Definitely stuff worth talking about and thinking about. I'm still not personally really interested in getting too far into the timelines, sort of events and things like that. It's just not really for me. I like to play with all of my toys, but I do think there are some interesting things we can glean from this potentially relating to the regular game as well. So yeah, I still think there's a lot of value there. But definitely let me know what you guys think down below. What you guys see maybe this kind of alluding to coming in the future. How are you guys feeling about the affiliations as well? Obviously, some affiliations we don't have on the timeline, so there might still be some surprises. Some of those characters could end up being in affiliations that are not listed here. So we don't know 100%, but we do have at least some reveals. And personally, based on where everyone kind of ended up landing, I don't think I'm expecting much, if anything, more than what we're seeing on this document as far as affiliations goes. So yeah, that kind of, to me, this seems pretty definitive, but I could be wrong. Maybe you know, something for Criminal Syndicate or something like that randomly pops in there. So very curious to hear what you guys think. But as far as my thoughts on this, that is going to wrap up this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please do drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We try to cover any interesting news as soon as it comes out for Marvel Crisis Protocol. We also have a bunch of discussion-focused content that we throw up during the weekdays, and we got some battle reports on weekends. So if you're a fan of any of that sort of thing, feel free to jump on in. But until next time, that's going to be it for me. So have a great day, everybody. Peace.